Hello and welcome to Crypto News. Today is October 2nd, 2025, and the top cryptocurrency news is as follows. Let's start with today's episode from our countries and move on to the UK regulators lifting their ban on ETNs. Specifically, companies in the UK will soon be able to offer retail consumers CETNs, with regulatory changes taking effect from October 8th. Let's say that in January 2021, the UK authorities had banned ETNs for investors because at the time there were no rules for cryptocurrencies. However, these rules now come with additional products for institutional investors. Moving on, we'll move on to Hong Kong stablecoin stocks, for which we already know from Crypto News that Hong Kong has issued rules for stablecoins that are effective from yesterday. Despite all this, with this event, the shares of Hong Kong companies dealing with stablecoins have fallen by 10% to 20%. Analysts are simply saying that this is a very healthy market correction, and with these new rules, more companies will appear to support stablecoins and will be able to develop their products, as you understand. And the latest news for our countries, we will move on to a very interesting move made by a company for Europe. Specifically, the company Assetera, a regulated trading platform based in Austria, has introduced an API that allows cryptocurrency exchanges to offer financial products with tokens such as stocks and government bonds without applying for their own MiFID license. So this is very positive news because we can tokenize shares on cryptocurrency exchanges without having to get a license that the platform already has. And with its products, other exchanges can tokenize. And we got to our ETFs, and we'll see the ETFs that have surpassed the Vanguard S&P 500 to record levels and reached $12.8 billion in inflows for July alone. While specifically for the Ethereum spot ETFs, let me tell you that they recorded monthly inflow levels of $5.4 billion with 20 consecutive days of inflows. However, with Bitcoin prices and the markets not so happy, the ETFs are not happy either. Let's say that on August 1st, with full data, we're at negative $812 million in Bitcoin ETFs, while Ethereum ETFs have broken that 20-day streak and are obviously at negative $152 billion on August 1st. And the latest news on our ETFs, which is very positive, and it's about Solana ETFs, is that Franklin Templeton, Grayscale, VanEck, Bitwise, Fidelity, and all the big companies that want their own Solana ETFs have filed their amended S1 for their Solana ETFs with the SEC. And that's positive news because when something like that happens, we're talking about changes that the SEC wants to make to these ETFs in order to approve them, so we're one step closer. Moving on to other companies, we'll go to Metaplanet, which in very simple terms is following MicroStrategy's lead and is looking to raise $3.7 billion to buy more Bitcoin. Next, DevvStream, which is part of the NASDAQ, bought $10 million worth of Bitcoin and Solana. This particular company, as we know from Crypto News, has already raised $300 million to buy cryptocurrencies and is slowly making these purchases. While for our last company today, we'll go to Sharplink Gaming, which bought $43 million in Ethereum. As a result, just last week, these companies bought $8 billion in cryptocurrencies. And for today's coin, we'll go to Ethena, whose stablecoin USDe is beating BlackRock's Ethereum and Bitcoin ETFs by $3.1 billion in net inflows, all in just 20 days. As a result, Ethereum's USDe has a market cap of $8.6 billion as I write this episode. Obviously, this is positive news because Ethena's main products are its stablecoins, so the stronger they are, the better for Ethena itself. And now it's time to go to our favorite cryptocurrency market, with Bitcoin at $113,000. We've lost our support for now. The next support is at $108,000. However, Bitcoin can theoretically recover. Now let's say that with Bitcoin this low, we had $900 million worth of liquidations in long positions, obviously. And now let's talk about what scared Bitcoin so much and made it fall to $113,000. And that's Mr. Trump's tariffs, which are being implemented. As we said, Mr. Trump had suspended the tariffs for 90 days. Those 90 days are up, as you can see, so those who didn't reach an agreement now face additional tariffs. So Mr. Trump issued an executive order that imposes trade tariffs on certain countries. Specifically, there will be an increase in tariffs on Canada from 25% to 35%, while countries that haven't reached agreements, such as South Africa, Switzerland, Taiwan, Thailand, and some others, face tariffs between 19% and 39%. So Trump's those additional tariffs have spooked the market, with the added problem of the US economy, which appears to be weak as it has added fewer jobs. Let's say the US added 73,000 jobs in July, and the unemployment rate rose to 4.2%. Analysts had estimated that the US would add 110,000 jobs, but they added far fewer than expected, which has spooked both traditional markets and Bitcoin. But let's take a long-term view. Let's say now that it is very positive for us that the US market is weak and has fewer jobs, because this has led analysts to predict that on September 17th, which is the next Fed meeting, we now have an 80% chance of seeing a 0.25 percentage point cut. So if that happens in September, perhaps along with a liquidity injection from the Fed, which will gradually enter the markets, we're in for an alt season. So that's the positive news in the long term. Now, at this point, the worst thing that can happen is to just buy low if Bitcoin has no appetite to go up, without this being investment advice. That wraps up the top news for crypto today, October 2nd, 2025. I'd like to remind you that the content you just watched is created for educational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice, but rather as investment opinion. Please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and feel free to comment. Take care, everyone, and have a good day.